Appreciate it, guys. Thank y'all for being here. It's a great crowd. We really appreciate you guys coming out and being a part of the big day. So we want to start this, and I appreciate y'all. This is a little bit different environment than where we normally do some of our press conferences. We felt like this was the best way to show some renderings. Really want to walk you guys through some of that so you can share that information. What we want to do first is we're dropping a video now, I guess, publicly, and so we want to share that with you guys and let you have the opportunity to see that, and then we'll get into some details.
Deep below the streets of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, rests a Coliseum rich in basketball success. Featuring postseason runs, NIT championships, and regular season titles, this venue has been home to an atmosphere that has stood the test of time. Throughout decades of Southern Miss expansions, Reed Green Coliseum has cemented its legacy as the heartbeat of this historic university.
And just remember, when you run out of this room, you built this house.
With 60 years of unforgettable moments echoed through the dome. From the rowdy ring to the dunk corner, Golden Eagle fans have created a home court advantage that exemplifies the Southern Miss winning tradition. As we pay homage to the legacies that fuel the possibilities of the future, we understand the direction we need to take in order to rise to the top. A belief in that infamous Southern Miss grit, where legacies are turned into vision.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate that. All right, as I said, big day certainly for our department, for our basketball programs, for our university, and in our community as well. When you think about Reed Green Coliseum, you know, you very quickly begin to think about all of the really important things that happen in that building, whether it's basketball games, whether it's graduations, concerts, just kind of the cultural hub really of our community for a long time. And so I'm really excited to be able to get together here today with you guys and talk about what that looks like in the future. And you saw, you know, the term, turn the legacy into vision, and that's kind of how we feel about this. It's about taking this building and really building upon what it is and what it means to people in this community, but really preparing it for the next 50 years. And so we're excited to get a chance to do that today and share that with you, and feel like we're in a really good place. Now, this project has been unique in a few ways. I want to share that with you guys. It's first of all, it's a 60-year-old building, and so as you begin to dig into the details of what can be done, how do we do this, they're just things that, you know, there's money going to be spent on this project that they're things that people will never see. You know, whether it's mechanical issues, plumbing issues, you know, AC, heat and AC, all the things that you would imagine in an older home that you would have to fix. The same holds true for this building. But, you know, I say that, you know, just to say, I think we're in a really good place with understanding what we do have to do. And so it's been unique in that regard, the fact that we really had to focus on making sure that we set the building up to be in a good position long term, and we feel really good about that. You know, the other unique part of this project is the funding aspect. As you guys know, in 2019, there was a 1 cent tax passed here in the city of Hattiesburg, which really was dedicated towards this facility. At least a portion of it was dedicated toward this facility, and we certainly appreciate Mayor Toby Barker and the good folks of Hattiesburg for helping make that a reality. The challenge with that is that money comes to us 1 month at a time, and so we receive that revenue monthly. And so as we begin to think about Reed Green, we really had to get to a place where we could develop a funding mechanism. And so for us, that was about timing. And so recently we got to a point where we felt like we had a really good plan. You know, when you're at the university level, you've got to consider all the financial numbers that come into play before you issue debt service. And so we got to that place this past fall and put that on the board agenda for IHL. and we got approval for that. And then in February, got the final step of approval. So once we were able to do that, we kind of hit the fast forward button on the planning process, and that's where we sit today. And so through that process, we were able to develop a $35 million budget. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a $35 million project. We feel very comfortable with that number. We feel like we can work with that type of budget. And what you're gonna see today, is based off of that number. That's not to say the deeper we get into some of the planning processes, we'll have adjustments that have to be made. What you're gonna see today is concept, but we feel really good about it. So the project's been unique in that way. Sometimes, people go, why haven't we moved sooner on this or on that? That's a big reason why. It really was about timing and making sure we had our financial kind of picture in order before we could really pull the trigger. And so I'm really excited to be able to feel comfortable today with where we're at and the fact that we're pressing forward. So with that, what I'd like to do is begin to walk you guys through some of the renderings and really share some information as we go through that. Talk a little bit about timeline, because I know that question is going to come up. This is this is going to be, right now we're in the design programming aspect of this project. Again, we kind of got the final approval in February, and begin to push forward. That's going to be, there's actually two things that are happening here. One, the roof renovation is already in process. That's going to begin this month. I think after the commencement ceremonies that take place, they're planning on beginning that part of the project later this month. So that'll take us through the summer. We'll get the new roof put on. As you guys have heard me say, that's really kind of first step and very important to us. The planning process for the rest of this facility is about an 8-month process. And so we're looking at putting this project out to bid early 2025. Of course, that takes time too, but when we get to the finish line of the bid process, getting it out, getting it awarded, then we're looking at about a 24-month window for construction. It may seem a little bit lengthy, and I'll tell you why we're kind of planning on that now. Again, all subject to change. I'm going to say that multiple times today because this is a construction project. But the reason that's a little bit lengthy is we really need to be in this building at all times, right? This is not a situation where we can shut this building down for a 10-month period and function not only as a basketball program, but really as a university. And so the architects feel comfortable with saying, hey, we can keep this building open. We can function in a way that we need to, but it may take a little bit longer to get to the finish line. So we're looking at about a 24-month process, okay? All right, so we're gonna dig in here on some of the renderings. I wanted to do it this way just because I think it's the most informative way, most helpful way for you guys to understand kind of what we're looking at, what our priorities were. And so I'm gonna do my best to. Okay. All right, first shot is the front of the building, the entryway. So it was really important to us that we, for me, I said multiple times, I want some wow factor. I want people to drive by on 4th Street and, stop at the red light or kind of turn their heads to want to see this building. And so we kind of turned the architects loose, and WBA, Wereburner architects have done a great job of helping us through this process. And we kind of gave them some leeway here. And hey, what does this need to look like? And so I'm very pleased with the way this turned out. You can see, and we got a couple of shots of this I'll show you, but you can kind of see that this front of this building and we're going to call it the front door now. We really haven't had a front door, but this is going to be our lobby and our front door. Extends all the way out to the sidewalk. And so if you can think about the facility now, there's a big ramp that goes up to the front door. This would extend out towards the sidewalk. Now, none of the traffic circle will be impacted here. This is all exists within the existing footprint. So there's another shot, basically from 4th Street, from the red light, if you will. And then we'll take a little closer look. Again, this comes out towards the sidewalk. We've got a lot of glass involved, a lot of accent colors, and just a more welcoming, inviting lobby entryway for us. And certainly programming-wise, we're going to include ticket offices, arena offices, that space that we need, new ticket offices, some ADA restrooms are going to be in this lobby area, and then it's just going to be a much more welcoming area. This is an overhead shot. We'll talk more about this, but just kind of gives you the footprint of what this is going to look like when we finish. We're addressing the front of the building and the back of the building. The back of the building you see here will be our new practice facility. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So this is the south side of the building. One of the things that priority list, the front door was very important to me. Practice facility was kind of 1B. I just felt like to function the way we need to function as a basketball program, not only that, but as a university and do the things we want to do in this building, we really needed a practice floor. We had to have a place where our teams could go. If the building's offline, we're hosting a community event, we need to be able to practice. And the rules now allow us to basically work out year round, and we do. And so our basketball teams are here at all times. And so this gives us, from a development standpoint, this gives us a real leg up. And in the recruiting world, it's gonna be really important to us. This practice facility is gonna mean a lot to us. And so this was a big piece of the puzzle for all the reasons I just mentioned. So there's a great view of it. You can kind of see to the right side here, this will be a new weight room, new training center that we'll have. We kind of outgrown our facility there. So that's an important piece of the puzzle. And we'll do some more programming in that space and get the details of that ironed out as we go along. This is a great shot coming up K. James Drive. Just gonna be a wow factor again. And again, this comes out to the current sidewalk, but it fits within the footprint of what we have in place now. There's a shot inside. So, we're focusing on an opportunity to get 6 goals in a practice facility. That's really what you need to function in the right way. Of course, this space could be used for multiple things. If we're not practicing and the basketball team is not in session, so to speak, we can use this for university events as well as the main floor. Okay, I'm gonna take a trip back to the lobby there that we talked about as we get into the inside of the building. This, again, an open space, an inviting space. We're gonna have inside ticket windows, outdoor ticket windows. We're gonna have a kiosk, team shop area. One of the things you'll see some ribbon board at the top of the stairwell there. You also will see a brick facade. We'll try what we want to do, and again, the devil's in the details as we get into this, but conceptually what we want to do is be able to keep the current facade of the building to kind of give a nod to the history and keep that in place, but open that up so when you come in the building, it kind of feels like it's all open and ready to walk through. Inside of the building here, this is an important slide. I want to point out a few things. Couple things. You see the ceiling painted black. I think that's going to be, for multiple reasons, that's going to be a good thing for us, including concerts. We kind of talked to some consultants about what kind of needs do you have to bring in outside events. And one of the things they wanted to do was to begin to tone down that ceiling. You'll see scoreboard here. There will be 2 scoreboards, what we'll call corner boards. The facility cannot support a center hung board. And I asked them to go back and do a full structural study to give us that answer. Of course, anything's possible, but the money it would have taken to reinforce our current roof would be cost prohibitive. And so we decided instead to go with corner boards, which you're seeing in a lot of facilities now. So we'll have that board and a board that mirrors it opposite it on kind of the other angle, other corner of the court. And then what you'll see around the kind of the light ring of the facility there is this is ribbon board all the way around. So scoreboard, two large scoreboards and ribbon boards. And then the other thing I want to point out in this is this new area here. Okay, so one of the challenges we really wrestled with is how do we get the seating closer to the court, right? We don't have the issue on the end lines, but on the sidelines we've struggled with that. So in this scenario, we would basically go in and carve out part of that lower level, pour it at a different angle, and get that right behind the benches and right behind the scorer's table. And so I think that's going to be a big step, kind of on both sides, to get those sidelines closer. And really, we talked a lot about maintaining the unique home court advantage of Reed Green Coliseum. It's a loud place, and it's a place where it really is. It can be kind of that edge for us, and we didn't want to lose that. And so as we kind of talked through all these renovations, that was a focal point. So this was one of those things we wanted to make sure we made it better, but we didn't lose some of the advantages. So in this scenario, we would go chair backs on the sidelines. We're going to upgrade them, but we left bleacher seating on each end zone. I think haven't done this before, I think there's value in that, for a multitude of reasons. But that was the best approach for us, given our scenario. This is, a shot of what's gonna be a premium club area. This is on the south side of the building. A couple things I wanna point out. So in this in this concept, we would basically close off the concourse on the south side. This would be a club space. And so wide concourses, and we would have seating down in front. It would be really our only quote unquote premium space, and we wanted to make sure we did have some of that premium space. The back of that, as you kind of look at this rendering, the back of that, you can see glass walls. What we want to do there is have this set up in a way where you're looking into the practice facility. And so not only will that be, I think, a cool feature for people who are in that club, but when you think about recruiting and recruiting dinners and hosting people, it's going to be a great place to do other types of events. And this is a shot, kind of help you get your bearings here. This would be the front door entry in this area. So this is a concourse shot. I want to point out a couple things. Certainly, you get a little better shot of the scoreboard. We're going to have renovated concessions and restrooms and really modernize those and make them more open. But what we also wanted to do was widen the concourses. And so we accomplished that in a couple ways. Not easy to move the exterior walls of any building. So what we did was we took up the first few rows around the concourse and we expanded inward. And so what this allowed us to do is to feel much more open and allowed us to create some loge box opportunities at the top of that concourse. And so we think that's going to be a great addition for us, and just kind of how it feels, but also some more seating options for us. And then this last slide is what a concert would look like. And so I think that's important for us. One of the, we don't have as many slides of that certainly, but one of the things that we wanted to spend a lot of time thinking about is, any adjustments we make, how is that going to impact our ability to host outside events? And so this gives you a really good shot. We think capacity-wise, we think we're going to be able to stay around 6,800 seats. So we'll lose a few seats, but it's still going to be a really good number for us. And we think for outside events like this, we could be close to 5,000 when you get people down on the floor. And of course, you're going to lose the area behind the stage, but we think that's our number. And that's a number that can get the right kind of events into the Coliseum. So, all right. I'm gonna stop there, and I think now is a good time to open this up for questions. And so, if we're ready for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll open up for questions.
We were discussing yesterday, and Luke Johnson pulled up an amazing list of national acts that have played in this Coliseum since the early '70s and through the time that I was in school here. Is that the plan, to try to bring more of that to the campuses?
Well, here's what I would tell you. I would love to do that, Bob, but if we're really talking about what's possible for us, I think that world has changed quite a bit in 40 years. And what I mean by that are more venues that, to play in, there are more opportunities. And so I think the type of event we'll get here, we certainly want to host concerts and any type of event you can think of that would bring a crowd of about 5,000 people, we want to explore that. But definitely concerts, things that really can add to the community, we want to be able to do that. The types of events and the types of people and acts that you're going to get, I think will depend on some other factors that we won't be able to control. But I think having 5,000 seats is important, and it'll allow us, I think, to be very strategic about that.
It's another enhancement of student life too, is
Absolutely.
to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big part of it, is to be able to get those things on campus for our students to enjoy.
So with the $35 million budget, how does that kind of break down in terms of where the money is coming from?
Yeah, so it's a great question, Sam, thanks. And so what we were able to do from a debt service standpoint was get the opportunity, like I said, get the go-ahead to issue a bond. And so most of the money is going to come from the 1 cent tax. And so that's our revenue source. Now that's spread out over time. As I mentioned, we get that monthly. And so we're able to issue a bond and utilize that 1% or that 1 cent tax to pay back the debt service. There will be a fundraising element as well. There has been a fundraising element. We've got some naming opportunities that we're gonna explore. And so it'll be a combination of those two things, but a large part of it is gonna be a bond issue that's paid back through the 1 cent tax.
I know you said this, go ahead.
Andrew?
Did you ever get a final number of how much the roof will cost?
I'm gonna give you an estimate here, but you know, we got, multiple quotes on that, and it's gonna be somewhere in the $2 to $3 million range, I think.
I know you said this, but to clarify, you hope to break ground 2025?
Yeah, early 25, we hope to bid it out, and then really it will be, you know, as far as putting a shovel in the ground, it depends on how quickly that goes, but as soon as we can after that. And so I would hope that we have a shovel in the ground, you know, next spring. And I, you know, often get the question about, well, do you start at the end of the season, or do you know, certainly ideally that'd be great, but I don't know if that's gonna keep us from starting. You know, if it's February or March and we're still playing basketball, there are plenty of things that can be done, before we get to that point. And so as you guys have seen kind of the layout of the building, we're gonna be able to, you know, for example, let's say we started on the south side, we're gonna be able to do a lot of work on that south side, shut it down, and really have enough, you know, we've got enough doors in that building, love it or hate it, we've got enough doors in that building to have egress opportunities, and so we should be fine to be able to do a lot of the work while we're still in that building.
So will this be done in phases, and has those phases been laid out, or?
I wouldn't call it phases. I think it's a start to finish project. It just we may have to sequence it, I would use that term. We may have to sequence it in a way that is least intrusive.
The practice facility, just straight basketball, or will it be used for other things? Like, say, I don't know, an AAU tournament to
Yeah.
bring kids onto campus?
I think any of that's possible. I think we'll explore, and I mentioned, you know, we could do, you know, again, the basketball team's gonna occupy that space a lot, especially if we take the main floor offline, just because, and I know the people in this room understand it, because you guys get to see it, you know, but our men's and women's, you know, players, our student athletes, it's a daily thing. Like there's not a lot of days off. They're in there, I mean, even on their own, they're in there working, and so we need that space for them to get better and develop, but I do think there's gonna be opportunities to host things on that floor, you know, just because the space hasn't existed before. It's gonna give us some flexibility.
Jeremy, what are basketball facilities throughout the Sun Belt like? And when this is completed, where will this facility compare to other Sun Belt facilities?
Yeah, I think you're all, you know, kind of all over the board, probably the right answer to that. I think there's been some really good facilities built in the past decade or so, maybe 15 years. And I think once we get this complete, I think it's gonna feel in a lot of ways, like a new building. And so I would say that we're gonna be in the top third of our league when you kind of walk into the facility and say, wow, you know, this is an impressive place, and they've got everything they need to be successful.
Is it finally a relief to just put out the renderings that people have been asking for?
Yes, it is, not for that reason. I mean, I get a lot of advice, and it doesn't bother me anymore. But it is a relief, because I know what it means to our basketball programs and our university and our community. And so doing all the work behind the scenes for, you know, a couple of years and plugging away and making adjustments and trying to figure out how to get, that's been a bit taxing. So to get to this point, to be able to share it, that's awesome. But we still have a lot of work to do. And now, don't get me wrong, we're well into the programming phase, and this thing is full go. But there's a lot of work to be done over the next 8 months or so. But it's a good day to be able to share this.
Can you speak to kind of what work is left to be done?
Yeah.
Obviously, kind of, I would think the hard part's over, or what other
Well,
challenges do you see ahead?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of challenges ahead. I think it's just time. So the programming, when I say that, you know, you really begin to get into the weeds of what can we make this fit here? Does the elevator work there? Can we, you know, really the planning and programming down deep into the weeds, and you know, you're in your design phase then, and then of course you have to go from design phase to construction documents, which is a process in itself too. So it's really more about time more than it is any real challenges that stand in our way. And the thing about that, Ted, is we really just couldn't push forward until we had that funding mechanism in place. And so that's why we were sitting on go, and we did as much as we could until we got that in place, we got the okay, and then we hit the fast forward button.
I wondered maybe how much conversations you personally, or just the whole design process or departments have with Jay Ladner and
Yeah.
Coach McNellis about, you know, what their kind of needs are and what they wanna see.
So, yes, we've certainly talked to the coaches. They will be much more involved over the next 3 or 4 months as we really get into some of the programming and, hey, how big does this weight room need to be, and what can we do here, and what does this mean for us? But, they've definitely been involved, but they're gonna spend a whole lot more time with it over the next few months. Other questions?
I have one for Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul, I think it's fair to say all university presidents are not as supportive and enthusiastic about athletics as you are. What is it in your mind about athletics that's important to a university?
Well, it's absolutely vital to the University of Southern Mississippi and to our growth. Athletics is your front porch. It's what invites people in, and it's what welcomes alums back home. And so it becomes a catalyst for student enrollment growth, for private giving, for national profile. It's invaluable. And as I think you know, I'm 100% behind everything we can do every day to, we're blessed here. We've got a rich heritage, right, and legacy. But you gotta keep working and keep investing to keep it heading in the right direction.
And I want to thank Dr. Paul for being here. Certainly you guys know how supportive he is, and Mayor Marshall for making time out of it. They're both very busy. And so that should tell you how important this project is. They're both here today and supporting this. And we're gonna move out in a few minutes into the lobby area. And these guys, if time permits, I think they're willing to do some stand-ups and one-on-one kind of stuff with you guys, or some stand-up opportunities to get their opinions and feedback on some of this. So I didn't mean to shut off questions, so then.
I was just, the north entrance, now there's so many entrances in the Reed Green. Is this gonna be the only way to get into the building, or you still
No.
have the east and
We'll
west?
still have the east and west, and we'll figure out the best, part of our planning will be the ingress egress aspect of that. And where do we kind of push people to, and we're gonna have a south, this is not in this, but as we get into details, we're gonna have a south entry point that is, that goes directly to that closed space, right? And so there's a lot of different opportunities, I think, for us to really map out how people park and walk and get into the building, all those things that, architects help us try to understand. And so that'd be an important question for us to answer down the road.
Will it affect parking at all? Will you lose parking spots at all?
We will not, no, this is all gonna happen within the circle, and, so we feel really good about that. And
Which is unbelievable and unusual.
Yeah.
I'm losing part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, great question. Other than maybe, during some construction things where we have to block off a little bit, but once the project is complete, it'll be fully intact.
Have you made the tough decision on where to put the media?
Android is most definitely on my list. We have had a ton of discussion about that already, so it really is important, because we wanna make sure post-game, media workroom and post-game, that whether that's the same space or different spaces, that you guys have a place to get your work done, and we can have the right type of interviews, and all those things are important to us. So I know you were somewhat joking, but it's a big part of it for us.
You didn't mention locker rooms. Will there be any change to the locker room?
Yeah, one of the good things we're gonna do some refresh. We actually just remodeled our women's locker room in the last couple of years, and then we're gonna do a refresh on the men's side. It's not necessarily part of this larger project, but it will be happening. Our team space really is good space. Of course, that renovation took place in 2009, I think, and they did a really good job. It's good space. It just needs a bit of a refresh. All right, thank you guys.
Anything else?
We'll move out.
Yeah, we'll go out to the hallway and, if you wanna do some one-on-ones out there, we can do that
Thank y'all.
there, and we'll serve lunch. Lunch will be in the parlor as well. I believe we have walk-ons.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you taking time. I'm busy.
Oh,
Good to
yeah.
see you.
well,
I was half faith.